I'll take a naive, lucky action taker over a skilled, experienced ponderer any day of the week. Hello, my friends, and welcome to the 188th episode of the Inbound Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. Last week, we heard from Mr. Kevin Karner, who has experience building a startup, getting acquired by a big company, going to $1 billion plus valuation, only to go back to the small company and start all over again. Hear his story, though, on how he built that small company, how he helped the big company get even bigger, and how he's doing it again with this new startup, all by old school methods, human-to-human interaction and touches, reaching out, calling, meeting, emailing, one-on-one with individuals, applying sympathy, and I talk about the difference between sympathy and empathy, but you need both, how he applied that to grow his sales, grow those businesses, and he is still a young dude. So be sure to check out thesaleswhisperer.com/session 187 to hear his story, get the links to the notes and the books and the other things that we recommend in that episode, and you will be glad you did. Today we have Mr. Micah Mitchell. I've known Micah now for several years through the Infusionsoft community. He's a very smart dude. Very quiet, modest dude, as you will soon hear, but he's smart. He builds great software. He's built a great company. He builds great and smart relationships and partnerships, and you're going to hear how he has done all of that here in session 188. If you need help doing that in a small, motivated, exclusive group, check out the5.us. You know, Jim Rohn says you are the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. That's the idea. Once you secure your seat and you get here, everything else is covered. Your lodging, your food, your entertainment. So come hang out for 2.5 days with 5 motivated entrepreneurs, as well as myself, to help you plot a bigger vision, bigger goals, and then map out what it will take to get there and then start doing it. So again, it's the5.us. And now let's bring on Micah. Micah Mitchell, all the way from one of those forks in Utah. I don't remember which one. Welcome to the Sales Podcast. How the heck are you?
I am doing fantastic, man. How are you?
I'm good. I won't tell everybody where you live because they'll just descend upon you, you know, in droves. That's why you're always moving, because the paparazzi find you. So I'll honor your request to remain anonymous, all right?
All right. Appreciate that.
But this better be a good episode, because if not, I will publish your GPS locations, your home phone, your cell phone. I'll do it.
I could use some friends. That wouldn't be too bad.
Yep. My parents hung a pork chop around my neck to get the dog to play with me. But, you know, this is about you, not me, okay? So I've known you for many years through the Infusionsoft community. You're the founder of Memberium, very cool membership site. Let's Infusionsoft users build membership sites on WordPress, and you've been helping me most graciously. I appreciate it. But for those that do not know you, would you mind taking a minute or two, tell us the world about you, and then we'll go down the rabbit hole?
Yeah, so I've been using Infusionsoft for about 10 years now, and as you were saying, now focused mostly on Memberium and creating membership sites for people. So that's most of my day basically is, doing support for membership sites and marketing and sales and all of that, and it's all in the aftermarket of Infusionsoft. We are going to branch over into ActiveCampaign as well. We're already working on that and announced it months ago. So everything before that, though, was really, I think it was about 8 years ago. I'd had Infusionsoft for a while, and I read one of these Michael Gerber books and was like, okay, everything I do is going to be focused around Infusionsoft to give what I was doing some focus. So for years, I've only dealt with them. I'm starting to branch out a little, but yeah, pretty much Infusionsoft membership sites lately.
So I was going to ask you about, why did you pick Infusionsoft? Why did you pick a way or a platform to focus on? I mean, can you walk us through that? Because in a way, I mean, it's good and bad, right? It's good to concentrate, to be known for something, but it can be dangerous to put all your eggs in one basket. I mean, and 8 years ago, Infusionsoft was like 70 employees. They may not have made the turn. So can you walk us through kind of the thought process there on how you picked them and why you chose to focus just on one?
Yeah, part of it is I was naive and I got lucky. Luckily I picked something that did grow for a period of time. But there is that dual side to it where when they weren't doing as well, things would slow down. When they do really well, things are good. But the reason I did it is there's this book called Awakening the Entrepreneur Within by Michael Gerber. Most people know the E-Myth, but there's another one he wrote that I don't really see, mentioned a lot. But it's like a rant, the whole book. And I mean, you've probably seen Michael. He does kind of rant, he tends to, but the book is like a nonstop rant that I started reading one night and read all through the night till the next morning till I was done. And what it was essentially saying is, an entrepreneur isn't somebody who just gets into a business to make money, like to work a system. It's somebody who's trying to change something or serve a particular market or do something new or whatever. And at the time I was just doing websites, and I kind of viewed myself as I'll do a website or anything related to websites for anybody, And after reading that, I was like, no, I've got to have some focus and some purpose and all these kinds of things. And at the time, I was getting good leads from Infusionsoft just because I was a user who also understood websites, which was very rare back then. These days, there's hundreds, if not thousands. But at the time, it was like, oh, this is a niche. Like you said, they were tiny, so it was a niche. And I just happened to get lucky that they grew. But that was the thinking is, I'm not getting paid very well, and I'm having to compete with everyone on the planet for websites in general. But as the Infusionsoft website guy, I'm, a class of one, at least for the time being.
Right. So, hey, being naive and lucky, I'll take that. I'm going to say I'd rather be lucky than good, huh?
Yeah, definitely. Luck is good.
So you chose to work on Infusionsoft, but, I mean, in general, you could have continued making websites for anybody, and you were working on WordPress, which is obviously universal, crosses over all industries and niches. So it's not like you threw everything out the window and said, I'm only going to do one thing, but over time, you've kind of gotten to that point, right?
Yeah, so at the time, I wasn't even doing WordPress. It was general, like Flash websites, HTML, all that. And I didn't throw everything out. I just focused it. So it was the same work, but when I would talk to people, that was the first question, do you have Infusionsoft? And if not, there's really nothing we can do together. If so, I'm your guy, pretty much. And that resonated with people. So those sales were simple and easy because everyone else they talked to was like, what's Infusionsoft? I'm going to have to figure it out. And when they talk to me, it's like, oh, I've been using it for a few years already. What do you want to know? What do you want to do? It's all easy, essentially. And so it was just that, special niche at the time, I guess.
Now, were you just helping people get more out of Infusionsoft, or did you immediately start on Memberium and doing membership sites for Infusionsoft users?
It was very general. So, for example, a lot of it had to do with websites initially. People would want the Infusionsoft shopping cart built into their site, or even just embedding web forms and simple stuff. But one of the leads that came along pretty quickly was Jermaine Griggs. Jeff Mass called me and asked me if I could move him or help move him from one shopping cart to Infusionsoft. And so that involved affiliate programs and shopping carts and one-click upsells. And I understood technology enough to kind of broker it. I actually had a programmer at the time out of Greece who would write the code, but Jermaine would have the idea, I want to do this. And I'd say, oh, sure, I understand Infusion enough, and I've got the guy who can write the code. And so I just kind of explain it. And Jermaine's a genius. And so he'd have, a good idea, and he would just need the little Infusion expertise that he was acquiring just then, coming over from one shopping cart. But, it was everything. It wasn't just membership sites at all. In fact, I don't think it took a turn to membership sites for several years. And prior to that, a lot to do with, general website stuff, like a brochure-style website that just happened to have a couple Infusionsoft forms.
Yeah, I remember that was about a $500,000 contract, and Jermaine was talking to me, and then he said, no, I found somebody better. So that was you, huh? So you stole that college fund from my kids. I think we're going to have to end this interview now.
Yeah, no, my kids are fat and happy, and your kids, I know, are starving. So.
My kids are out right now. I can see them mowing yards and collecting cans. So, yeah, thanks a lot, man. So that's cool. Yeah, I had Jermaine on. I had to go look him up. I had him way back, literally over a year ago, almost 2 years ago. So he is a genius. It's a smart dude. So that's cool. So you chose to focus on Infusionsoft, and and I did as well. And I'm kind of like you, naive and lucky. I mean, I bought it for myself, and I just used it, and I learned about their partner program, and it was quite lucrative. So I jumped into that, and I was a product of the product. So Hey, I finally picked a winner. So walk me through, though, that evolution. So you're doing a little bit of everything, and then, bam, you start creating membership plugins and a membership portal. That is very niched. How did that evolve?
So I don't remember who the first customer was that asked for it, but I was actually, when I switched off of doing custom websites, I switched to a thing called Joomla, which is similar to WordPress, but it's a little more complicated, a lot less popular. At the time, I didn't know WordPress existed, so I was just like, oh, this Joomla thing's amazing. It'll let you build a website without having to code, every tiny piece of it yourself. And somebody asked for an integration between Joomla and Infusionsoft to make a membership site. So that was the very first piece. And I remember the very first one was really simple. It was just log in and log out kind of stuff. There wasn't multiple levels of membership. There weren't really any bells and whistles. And then Joomla has what they call components, which are like WordPress plugins. And I won't get too nerdy here, but basically they're add-ons that do other stuff. And so then people started asking for integrations between some of Joomla's add-ons to Infusionsoft. So there was one that did this community thing, and they said, I want my community members' data to sync with Infusionsoft, so when they buy certain things, they can access certain parts of the site and all this. And so I ended up building really a little family of plugins for Joomla. And at that time, I met up, so a couple things were going on. I was doing all sorts of plugins, and one of the little evolutions was I was making these custom, and then at some point, people would ask for the same thing again. And I was like, oh, yeah, I've got one of those. Here you go, and we'd tweak it slightly. And over a little period of time, I finally turned it into a product that I would sell. And I was dumb, and so I would sell it for a one-time fee. I'd be, it's only $297, and here's the plugin, and you get lifetime access, which is a bad idea because I'm committing myself to a lifetime of supporting it, and it being open source, it being ripped off, and all those other things. So just saying from a business sense, that was a bad idea. So that's kind of where I was. And then I ran into Bob Keane, who I'd started a WordPress plugin, and he had one, and we decided to partner up, and I moved down to Costa Rica, and we grew that for a while, and then we parted ways, had lots of differences. And so parted ways, and that kind of led to Membarium. There was a 3-year gap there. So when I stopped that, I decided, software is a tricky business. You got to do quite a bit of support. There's some of these problems, which I later learned were a little more related to my partner than to the software business in general. So when I came back into software,
we've all had good and bad partners, more bad than good. So I understand.
Yeah, what am I really? It's interesting. You learn a lot from them, and so I did learn a lot from that experience, and that part was good. But yeah, it's one of my best friends told me never partner, because I was looking at another venture, and he was just like, no, just don't partner. And he was so sure about it that it really changed my thinking to, I don't really need a business partner, because for some reason prior to that, everything I'd done had a partner of some sort, and I just realized, no, that's really short-sighted, So I went away from software, was doing just info, so I was kind of eating my own dog food. I made my own membership site, and that went rather well, but it's when that's all you have, when your only thing is a membership site, it's good and bad, because you can spend your whole day on just creating content for your members, which is a good feeling. And at the same time, though, it's the only thing you have to sell. So when it's not selling well, that's a scary place to be. But luckily it did really well. And then when the opportunity came up to do Membarium, it's because David Bullock had created it for himself kind of as a pet project, and then Digital Marketer had started using it, and so it was kind of just for them, essentially. But I hit him up and wanted to license it and sell it and use it as a SaaS. And Dave, bless his heart, he's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. He wanted to give it away for free and then make money selling his hours doing support for it, right? He wanted to be a consultant and give it away for free, and he figured it would drive business to him. And I was just like, no. We gotta license this. We gotta productize it and all that. And so I used a lot of what I learned from my experience and from partnering with Bob about the model, especially to just be like, oh, this is simple enough. You encrypt the software, you charge a monthly fee for it. That allows you to provide better support and ongoing updates. And so that's a working business model. And that's why right now I focus on Membarium, is because people love it. We've got a lot of really cool clients, and then it works as a business model, whereas a lot of stuff I did before was pretty much a treadmill. I'd sell, I'd fulfill, I'd sell, I'd fulfill. And there was no real end in sight. There was no equity being generated.
So it sounds like you're Steve Jobs and David is Steve Wozniak, huh?
Yeah, sometimes I call him Woz, which he takes as a compliment.
Because Woz just wanted to give it away.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not as intelligent as Steve. I can say that for sure. Hopefully I don't have some of the bad attributes as well. But no, Dave is definitely Woz.
So you went from not wanting a partner to getting a partner. So what the heck is wrong with you?
There's a couple things there. One is it's actually a royalty agreement. And that was for both of us. We both didn't want to necessarily be in business together. We wanted to work together, but not have all the different things that you have to discuss. And it's worked out amazingly well. So one of the things that we did, I should say, is we spent several months working out the agreement and the contingency plans and, the thresholds as far as like, okay, if we don't sell this much, here's how it's going to break up and exactly where things are going to go. And luckily we beat all of our goals by, many, many times. And so we didn't have to do any of those things, but just gaining that understanding beforehand, because I think part of my issue in the past was when I would partner, it was more like, getting married after the first date. It was like, oh, we did one little JV together and it worked well. We should be business partners. And this was much more calculated. It was, okay, could this work? Sure. Taking the upside out of the picture, what about all the downsides? What about all the risks and problems? How are we going to deal with all of those? And so figuring that out first and spending several months doing it has made the relationship just really, really smooth. And, being a royalty agreement, we still treat it kind of like a partnership. We talk about pretty much everything together, but it's not as involved. I pay him his royalty and he's happy and I can make decisions with autonomy and I'm happy. And so that's worked well. I mean, one, it's due to his personality. Two, it's due to putting in a lot of due diligence. And I had talked to somebody who said the time to negotiate all that stuff is before the deal when there's no money on the table because both of you are thinking clearly, whereas if you try to figure out some of those details down the road when there's some money on the table, it's a totally different conversation. And so we figured out all the details before there was any money on the table. And then, again, luckily things worked out. And so we're kind of on the really happy high end of that. But having those agreements and understandings in place has just, there's been no speed bumps. He's been really a lot better than I would have even imagined. And it's not saying anything, that I imagine less. It's just that for him to be a programmer and be interactive on social media and be nice to customers and offer great support and all those things, it's like that wasn't even part of the deal, but he's happy to offer it and happy to pitch in a bunch of ways. So it's very different. Even though we contracted it to such a level of detail, the way we operate is very, very loose. And I think it's because, in that process, we developed a lot of trust.
Right. Well, that's cool. So does he remain kind of the technical back-end developer and you're the front end, kind of the face of the company doing the sales and training?
Yeah, pretty much. So he is the sole programmer still, and which is a testament to, just solid programming skills. But he does actually pitch in on the marketing. So he, for example, is going to be sponsoring, we haven't closed it out, but one of Jeff Walker's events, he wants to do that because I'm going to be out sponsoring a GCAN event the same weekend. So he actually pitches in on marketing, which, again, you wouldn't expect of a programmer. And we have marketing conversations. But, yeah, I mean, the essence of the deal is he is the technology and I'm the sales and marketing.
So talk to me about membership sites. Why does somebody need a membership site? And who does need one and who doesn't need one? Are there any industries that can't benefit from a membership site?
In my very biased opinion, I think every business needs one, but it's really not that biased a statement because even if you're not selling information, offering some information as a supplement to a product or a service you're offering, for example, law firms, they're going to repeat the same information to every client to get them up to speed. And a lot of them like to put that into a membership site, and then they can do the consultation that really needs to happen with the attorney one-on-one. Medical companies, they can have pre and post procedural training in there. So in both of these cases, they don't necessarily have to charge for it, but it does, help with the services. Product companies can do it. Software companies can do it. as far as just putting in information that they only want their clients to have access to, even if they're not charging for it. And then the most universal or universally applicable way to use it would be to train your own staff. And we see companies doing that. One of the examples is there's a company, and this is like an obvious one, or a high value one, but they do franchises. And so they have a membership site for the people who purchase their franchises to train everyone on their staff, right down to janitorial. So everyone from sales, accounting, all staff members basically have a module in there. And then the parent company selling the franchises, they're just really operating a membership site and selling those things. So yeah, any company really can use it for internal training, but I would say the sweet spot are companies who do some sort of service, because a lot of what happens in a service can, either be added as supplemental information, or for people who can't afford the primary service as another option, whether it's because they can't travel to you or the cost is too high or whatever, you can make a down market option, done for you option into a membership site and sell that. And it all kind of stems from the basic belief that we have that information is really, really valuable. I mean, I've had times, and you probably have as well, where you kind of go along doing things one way or a certain way, and then you find out something different. Just a little bit of knowledge or information or an idea changes the way you act. And there's a real monetary value to that. And that is the position a lot of our clients are in. They have something that's worth real money to somebody that they're trying to sell. They're trying to package up, productize, and sell. And again, sometimes they're selling directly, sometimes it's supplemental. So that's kind of my, again, biased take on membership sites. But even if I wasn't biased, I would say that pretty much every business needs one for one of those reasons.
Right. So why are you now moving out into another platform, ActiveCampaign, versus just sticking with Infusionsoft?
So you and I talk about this off and on a little bit, and we made this decision about 6 months ago when Infusionsoft seemed to be having a pretty rough patch. Now I'm a little less excited about ActiveCampaign, to be honest. But at the same time, the real reason that we're doing it is our number one reason for people canceling Membarium, because it only works for Infusionsoft, is that they're leaving Infusionsoft. And when we do the exit survey, the number one place they're going is ActiveCampaign. So we have a lot of people, we call it kind of downgrading from Infusionsoft to ActiveCampaign, and we'd rather keep those customers. So because they ask us, hey, do you also integrate to ActiveCampaign? No, we don't. Well, you should. So after hearing that enough times, it was like, yeah, we probably should.
Very interesting. Oh, that's a whole nother discussion. Like, why would somebody leave and go to something else? But I mean, once something's working, it seems like you'd stick with it. And the moving can be such a pain, but I know people do it. But it's smart. I mean, at least you're doing those exit surveys to find out. Because most people would just say, oh, well, and let them go. And the next thing they know, they don't have a business. Because they didn't bother asking the questions. So are they telling you they've already made the decision, or are people coming to you even ahead of time and saying, hey, I'm thinking of leaving, what else would you recommend? So maybe you can get ahead of that and even be the sales rep of the ActiveCampaign, even get services work, right? Helping them transition and then move into your new membership portal. I mean, are you that far ahead of the curve, or is that the goal?
That's an interesting question, and I had never really thought about the timing of it. But yeah, reflecting, they come to us after they've moved. So there are some cases where they say we're thinking of leaving Infusion, and a lot of times we'll save those by kind of digging in and figuring it out and offering, to help them a little even with their Infusion app outside of their membership site. But no, we get a lot of, hey, I've left Infusionsoft, so I need to cancel this, or can we move? And the idea for the integration, we had kicked around the idea of integrating to other platforms, but one of our core things when we started was by specializing in Infusionsoft, we can remain, very, I guess, relevant for most of our customers, because there's a lot of membership solutions, but there's fewer who integrate only to Infusion. So we kind of hung our hat on that. And so the decision to go outside didn't make sense until I was talking to Dan Kurt, who does Revenue Conduit. And the way he described it was just new to me, because it wasn't like, let's integrate to everything to expand our customer base. It was, let's integrate down market to ActiveCampaign, up market to HubSpot, And that way, if people move CRMs, they're not changing us. Like, we stay in place as they move from CRM to CRM. And I just thought that was interesting because it matched our situation of, hey, now you can move CRMs without changing your membership site provider. So it was, I don't know why that made so much more sense to me. Part of it possibly was political because I didn't want to just go integrate to a bunch of Infusionsoft competitors who are, equal to them, let's say like Ontraport, but having a down market option, ActiveCampaign, and an up market option, HubSpot, seemed to make a lot of sense. And, even with Infusionsoft talking to them, it wasn't, hey, we're going out and integrating to your, competitors. At least I don't think of ActiveCampaign as a direct competitor because they don't have the same functionality. I know, like you said, it's a whole different conversation as to why people would leave, but that was our reasoning behind it.
Right. Very cool. Yeah, I mean, if you're seeing an uptick in that, I'd get out ahead of the curve and do some surveys, maybe an open forum or open Q&A, even regularly, once a month, and say, what CRMs are you using, or what platforms are you using, or, are you considering any of these platforms? And if you're only supporting 2 right now, then, you could always do what's the difference between ActiveCampaign and Infusionsoft, or when should you consider making the switch, and, get ahead of that. So people are thinking of you when they make the switch, so you can help them. Yeah,
I got to pick your brain because all these ideas before talking to you, I just wasn't thinking about. And I know you're in that realm of multi-CRM, so that's a great idea. I got to pick your brain a little more, Wes.
And so you get this tip for free. Okay, the next one, though, I'm going to have to get your credit card on file.
I'll Skype it to you.
Because, I'm kind of faced with that as well. I'm in a similar boat as you in helping people on one platform and then letting them know, hey, I work with some others as well. Let's help you make the best decision. Whereas before it was all or nothing, right? I'll help you decide whether this is right, and if not, then good luck. Good luck in your search. But it's a catch-22, right? There's always say I'll contradict myself in every time I speak, because on the one hand, it is great to niche down, riches in niches, and be known for something and be known as the expert in that something. But you put too many eggs in one basket, you can be in trouble, especially if the company changes. Just like you always talk about people that built their business just running their ads and their business off of free traffic on Facebook fan pages. And that was great until Facebook changed the rules, So and that's what forced me to really look into branching out. I just had too many eggs in a basket that I didn't own. So not only did I have them in one basket, it wasn't my basket. But that being said, I made a lot of money in that basket. Always, great taste, less filling. You gotta pick your battles.
For a while I would justify it. Andrew Carnegie has like a spin on that, and he said it wasn't, not putting all your eggs in one basket. It was put all your eggs in one basket and then watch that basket. Focus on it. And so for a long time, I justified what I was doing by that. But seeing just all the people who'd been doing the same thing for a long time, you and Dan and a bunch of others, start looking outside, I didn't want to be too far behind that in case something did happen, because you are totally beholden to whoever it is.
So you're working on that integration with ActiveCampaign. Otherwise, though, you're going to stay focused on membership sites, or do you have some other tricks up your sleeve that you're working on?
100% focused on membership sites, and even going into ActiveCampaign, it's going to be a different code base, and so we're taking the same approach as far as integrating really deeply. And the difference between something like Revenue Conduit or some of these others is where they're a platform, meaning they're hosting and controlling the environment, they can add on extra services and extra code and all that just fine. Where we're a plugin and we live on the client server, one of the things that really, I guess, we have to focus on and we have to distinguish ourselves by is speed. So we have to remain lightweight. And it just means that the Infusionsoft plugin will always be the Infusionsoft plugin, and the ActiveCampaign will always be the ActiveCampaign, and none of that code really is going to mix, just to stay smaller, essentially. So all membership sites, those two for now. And then I'm not sure what'll come up in the future, but, as far as membership sites go, the only other kind of branching you might say that we're doing is we're trying to not just be a software. So we have an event about membership sites. We have our own membership site with training on it. And so we're trying to kind of fill out that product offering to membership site owners, but that's definitely our niche.
So talk to me about that. You had your summit, right? It was, a couple of days, 2 or 3 days long, right after the Infusionsoft Icon?
Yeah, so we did a 3-day last fall as kind of the pilot, and then a 2-day just barely after Icon last month.
And so what drove you to do events, and what advice would you have for our listeners that are considering doing events to grow their business and to deepen their relationship with their clients?
Yeah, let me start by saying that I absolutely hate and detest doing events. So it was there was a good reason for it. And what I mean by that is I'd rather sit home and make an evergreen marketing funnel all day long, right? Something with a long tail. And I just have so many clients. A lot of these membership site people, they also have events. And when you really get to know them, I mean, they are some of the most stressed out people you'll ever meet in your life when it comes to these events.
The ones doing events?
Yeah, because they're having to sell the thing. They get up and present, and especially the ones who do too many events. So events in and of themselves are not bad, but I got burnt out personally on it a couple of years ago when I was doing an infusion mastermind plus my own events and all this kind of stuff. So in looking at doing this event, strategically it was right for us for a couple reasons. One, it was a way just to have a personal communication with our customers. So even though the first one we had, I think, 35 people sign up and come out to Chicago for it, we just figured building those long-term relationships with that many people would be really valuable. The other thing is we, of course, recorded it, so it's content creation for our membership site. And we also certified some partners in Membarium. So that is kind of a good part of why we are doing the events, is because it allows us to, train the people who really want to get trained and become an implementer of membership sites. And we get to train them in depth, build the relationship with them, while also working with customers and filming it. So to me, and my team will definitely tell you the same thing because I whine about it to them a lot about doing events. But yeah, it's, if it didn't meet a couple strategic goals, we wouldn't do it. And so that's what I would encourage people to do is, if you're going to do one, keep it small and record it. And then what I mean by keep it small is a lot of people will think, oh, well, if I sell 200 seats, then I make this much money. But the reality of most of those situations is you're 50 seats in and the event's coming up in a month or two and you're stressed out of your mind because you've committed to all this stuff. And people who are experienced at doing events, they're a little bit better. But even most of them, what I see them commonly do is, oh, this event was good. Let's make the next one bigger. And they just keep amping up until they're at this stress point. So for us, for example, we're going to keep our events small. The last one we had, I think 65 people register, but there's a bunch of kind of groupies hanging out in there. So we probably had 70, 75 people in the room most of the time. And we're probably going to keep it under 100 and max every 6 months. But the real benefit to us is certifying partners because we don't offer consulting and services. We are trying to push that out into a partner channel and kind of mimic what Infusionsoft does there.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, I was going to ask you how big will you make it versus how often? Even 65 seems kind of big. Is your focus, are you trying to make money off of the event, or are you trying to basically break even but deepen the relationship to create the long-term revenue, or is it a little bit of both?
Pretty much break even, to be honest. Like, of course, I'd like to make money on them, but we could have had sponsors. We could have let people speak and sell and taken a cut of that. And instead, there's no sponsors. There was no pitching or anything like that. It was just a content delivery. So it really is about the relationship with the clients and certifying the partners. So the relationship with the partners and, of course, the recordings of the content, which I can take and put into my membership site and leverage in, and that way the event definitely pays for itself. But short term, just off of ticket sales and expenses, we're buying drinks and meals and, doing all sorts of stuff that if we were trying to make money, probably wouldn't be part of it. We did not make money on the last one, let's just say.
Yeah. I mean, I know you kept costs down. I mean, I was going to yodel, and I was going to charge just $5,000 for that. Usually it's $10,000 per yodeling session, and you wouldn't even let me come do it. So, I mean, the next one you should let me, or at least come play the spoons. I'm pretty good on the spoons.
Ooh, see, I didn't think about that.
Mm-hmm. You talk about some great entertainment.
Show.
I'm telling you, it's exciting. So how have you grown your company? Do you have employees? Do you have contractors? A little bit of both? And how do you know when to use one or the other?
All contractors. So I've got a mentor. His name's Mike Searles, and he's got a couple businesses. One, he has to have employees, but in the other one, it's all contractors. And he said many times, just if he can avoid having employees, he will, as long as humanly possible. And so I've kind of gone that route. A lot of our employees are through Upwork, so a lot of our support team comes through there. And then our U.S.-based people are also contractors. So right now we've got 4 in support, 2 in marketing, 1 in partner management, you could say, 1 in accounting, and then myself and Dave doing the software.
So why Upwork? Because it seemed like once you find somebody, aren't you paying a premium to have those people? I mean, are you always paying them through Upwork, or are you just bringing people on for a short-term, 2-week, 4-week sort of project, and then you don't need them?
Yeah, good question. It's been interesting doing Upwork because we hired through there, and I always thought to myself, in a couple months we'll move them off and just kind of take them over and pay them ourselves. There's a little bit of a premium, and I'm not even sure how much it is, but there's a couple nice things that go on with Upwork. So for one, the agreement with the person is through Upwork, and so their standard NDA and all that kind of stuff is built into it. They're paid in one bulk thing, and it manages all the hour tracking, the payments, and it also takes random screenshots while they're on the clock of their computer. So it simplifies that side of it. And when I asked a couple of them, even the ones who've been with us about 1.5 years now, just like, hey, would you rather make more and have us pay you directly? They were just like, no, I really like Upwork because it just manages everything. And then I think also they like building their profile on Upwork, their earnings and their hours. And, normally that would worry me a little bit, just thinking, well, what are they building it for? Do they not plan on being here forever? But I think they're just trying to be smart about it. And even though it is a long-term engagement, everyone we hire is long-term and right up front. I'm kind of talking about that. But yeah, they wanted to stay on Upwork, even though it costs a little bit. And so for me, I was just going to pay out the same amount, whether through Upwork or not. So it's a convenience thing for me. The fact that they don't want to move and are fine making what they're making is like, okay, that's great, because it automatically tabulates everything and bills me, and the whole process is automated. I don't touch it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't know they did that random screenshot, because that'll keep them on their toes, huh?
Mm-hmm.
It's like this attorney, he died. He was 40 years old, and he goes up to St. Peter and he says, "Why so young? I'm only 40. He says, "Not according to the hours that you billed." You get it?
Very nice.
Myself up. So that's cool. I mean, you bring them on long term, and hey, I mean, I've not had a W-2 employee. I mean, everybody, even when I had long term contractors, basically working full time. I mean, they were still had them form their own corporation or LLC, and I just would pay their, my S corp pays their S corp or LLC, and just keep it like that.
Yep.
So very nice. Well, what are some parting words of wisdom you'd have for our listeners? I like to bring this up. People are usually driving, or they're in a plane, they're on a bike ride, or jogging. They may not be able to do anything right now, but when they get to their desk and they can do something to grow their business, what's the one takeaway? What would you say? The next hour, tomorrow morning, go do this, and it'll make a difference in your business.
I would say that if they spent an hour recording videos, either for customers or staff, that would be probably one of the most productive hours, even if it's an hour of instructions to your staff so you don't have to repeat stuff to existing people or regurgitate it for new people. And then, same for your new customers. So an hour of video, I mean, that I can't think of a better way to spend an hour.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be crazier. I mean, you can use Jing for free for like 5-minute videos, or, I mean, a webcam. These things are all HD now, and, all the smartphones are HD. I can't tell you how many people have told me they found me through my YouTube videos where I'm doing a demo of Infusionsoft, and 99% of it is just my screen clicking through, and I'll keep my mug in the bottom right, just small, so they can see that I'm real and really talking about it. But, not fancy at all. And only recently have I switched to Vimeo and Wistia, to pay for the hosting, but still the bulk of my content is free sitting there on YouTube. Although I do have my own membership site, and you're helping me with my Make Every Sale course. So, of course, that'll be protected. But, I have new client onboarding, and you're right. It's what a lifesaver. Just showing these mundane little things. Here's how to log in. Here's how to upload your logo. Here's how to create your signature. Here's how to create your 5 templates. Knock that out, and then we'll schedule our first call. It's, wow, what a lifesaver.
Yeah, and I bring it up because it's probably one of the things that most people know to do and just don't.
Yep. Well, where can people find you, man? Are you active on social media? Should we send them over to David or send them to memberium.com?
Yeah, I would go to memberium.com. So it's memberium.com. And I suck at social media, but if you hit us up on support at Memberium, that's one of our strengths. So we'll definitely get back to you. And if you want to, tell them to send the question to me directly, I'd be happy to answer it and talk to you.
Right. Very cool. And so I've got notes here, and I'll link out to Memberium, link to David J. Bullock on Twitter. If you go to thesaleswhisperer.com/session188, you can get all the links. We'll link out to Mr. Mike Searles as well. I spoke with him last week. Good dude. And so we'll show a little love to Mr. Searles. He was on the sales podcast as well. And I'll link to the interview with Jermaine Griggs, link to the book you mentioned on Michael Gerber. So it's all there. thesaleswhisperer.com/session188. Mr. Micah Mitchell, Memberium Master. Thanks for coming on the Sales Podcast, man.
Thanks for having me, Wes.
All right, dude. Have a great day.
You too.
There are some pearls of wisdom in there. It was quite interesting the way he did the royalty agreement with David. That's certainly something to look into. I did not realize also that Upwork worked the way that they did, and it's certainly worth the premium that they may be charging, and it's not always the case, but to have that tracking, that accountability to random screenshots, handling the pay, the issues with W-9s and taxes and all, what a pain. So, I learned something new there. I love how, Micah just found opportunity, kept plodding ahead. He admitted, he's lucky. He was naive when he made his decision early on, but his business model has evolved, and that's what you need to realize you have to do over time. McDonald's now sells more chicken than Kentucky Fried Chicken. Now they're rolling out salads. They're making actually pretty good coffee to compete with Starbucks. So that's just one big example. But do you need to evolve? IBM, the PCs, they sold them to Lenovo. So IBM doesn't even make PCs anymore. They've evolved with the changing times. So look at your own business, look at yourself, and ask yourself some hard questions. Do you need to evolve? Do you need to change what you offer? Do you need to change where your emphasis is? Now, Micah is still going with his strength, which is technology and software and coding and things like that. But his exact offering is changing. And I heard an interesting story. It was years ago, and a guy asked, "What business is McDonald's in?" And people are like, "Are you silly? They make fast food. They make hamburgers." And he says, "No. Basically, they're in the real estate business, because what they do is go find prime real estate, and they just happen to put a fast food joint on top of it because that returns the best ROI for their money." But really, their real margin comes from distributing sodas. Sugar water from Coke is their highest margin stuff. So you could say, they're selling hamburgers as a necessary evil to get you to come in and buy a Coke. because that's the high margin. So when you really break down things that you think you know and realize you don't, I hope that gives you pause and the motivation to question everything, right? Peel everything back and see if you can do it better. See if you should even do it at all. So I hope that this interview with Micah and then me just kind of pontificating here gets the juices flowing, gets you thinking. If you need a little more help like that, if you would like to hang out with me and 5 other motivated entrepreneurs for 2.5 days to get the creative juices flowing, check out the5.us. And that's where you can come out. All expenses paid once you get here. Means your hotel, your food, your entertainment, it's all provided. You just got to get here. That website again is the5.us. And this episode you are listening to is the Sales Podcast Session 188. Please leave a comment on the site, 5-star review on iTunes, because that really helps. I appreciate you. Lets me know that you're out there listening. And it also lets other entrepreneurs and salespeople and business owners such as yourself know that this is a valuable resource to help them grow. So thanks for listening. And as always, remember to sell different.